Hey everybody, this is Andrea Jenson from The Cash Flow CFO, and you're listening to the Cash Flow CFO podcast, the show that explores the financial side of running a business for people who want to maximize profitability and scale with confidence. If you want to make smart financial decisions based on data and put more of your hard-earned profits into your pocket, this is the podcast for you. This episode of the Cash Flow CFO podcast is brought to you by the Cash Flow CFO. Did you know that on average, business owners have up to 84% of their personal net worth tied up in their business? Our virtual CPAs and CFOs, as well as accounting and bookkeeping experts, empower business owners just like you to make big leaps that help them maximize profitability and scale with confidence. Visit thecashflowcfo.com for more information, and thank you for listening. Hey everybody, today my guest is Aaron Fragnito. He is the co-founder of People's Capital Group. Aaron is a full-time real estate investor with a primary focus on helping accredited investors, family offices, and RIAs preserve their wealth in real estate. He's also known as the New Jersey Real Estate. He's also the host of the New Jersey Real Estate Network, the Passive Cash Flow Podcast. I like that name. Aaron has completed over 300 real estate transactions and helped over hundreds of people build their wealth in real estate, while focusing on developing strong relationships with family offices and understanding their vision and helping them execute their goals into reality. Welcome to the show, Aaron.
Thank you, Andrea. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
I am excited to talk to you because, fractional CFO, we help people build and grow wealth through their business as an asset, which hopefully at some point they are going to exit that asset with a tremendous amount of money. So then they can go and invest in some passive offerings like real estate. So excited to talk to you. Tell me, how did you get started in the real estate market?
Well, Andrea, it was 2009, and the storms were blowing. It was the worst recession I've seen in my lifetime, really. And so I was graduating Rowan University with an entrepreneurial degree, and it's like, what do I do? I remember I went to a job fair, and there were two companies there. I think it was Enterprise Rent-A-Car and like Prudential. And I was like, I could sell insurance or I could rent cars. That seemed to be the only options, or start a business, right? As I had a small landscaping business in college and high school. And so I wanted to be a business owner. I wanted to, build and generate wealth and help people do the same as well. So I read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and the Purple Bible here in real estate. So I said, that's what I want to do. I want to own and manage real estate on a large scale and build my wealth that way, pay myself and my investors using the bank's money, and try to, build my wealth exponentially and create passive income. And I made a list. I said, okay, after 10 years, I want to have a net worth of $1 million and passive income of $100,000 per year. And that was the end goal. And I kind of worked my way down from that. Okay, I need to learn the industry, make connections, and earn some money. And I said, okay, I'll get started as a realtor. So I started working as a realtor and a wholesaler, and I was stapling signs to telephone poles and finding deals that way. I bought a 6-unit with my business partner, Seth Martinez, who I am still in business with till today, who is an expert at operations and had sold a medical billing company. I was more on the deal side. I was good at sourcing deals. So our strengths complemented each other's weaknesses. And we bought a 6-family together. We renovated it. We leased it up, and we refinanced our money back out in about a year. And the light bulb went off. We said, this is a great way to build and preserve our wealth, and tax-free. We paid ourselves back all the money. We're like, we can recycle this. And after doing a few more, realized it was very a cash-intensive business and needed to raise capital. So we started a group called New Jersey Real Estate Network. We're on meetup.com. We have about 5,000 members today. And we started raising capital from outside investors and inviting them in to participate in our deals. We developed a management company in 2015. We fixed and flipped a lot of properties. We wholesaled a lot of properties. We bought small multis, big multis, and sold some through the years. We financed others, and now have a nice portfolio and a good vertically integrated investment firm here in New Jersey. that we focus strictly on the North Jersey market. We buy 50 to 100 unit apartment buildings here that allow you to commute to Manhattan in about 30 minutes to an hour. And that's our sweet spot. Usually vintage real estate we can reposition like a Class C into a Class B with a lot of value add opportunity. And we do that with our in-house management company. We've about 100 investors, some family offices, high net worth individuals. And so, yeah, that's what we've been doing here for the last 13 years or so.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And taking advantage of cost segregation, tax, all the good tax stuff that you guys get, strategically using real estate for that. So I love that. And congrats on all the success that you guys have had. I think that more, especially business owners, right? We're so used to, I got to actively generate income and I have to do the doing and deliver the services. And we're just so ingrained of working hard that sometimes when someone says, oh yeah, that you can passively, have a revenue stream, they're like, yeah, too good to be true. So I'm sure you've talked to plenty of potential investors, right, that are business owners. How do some of those conversations play out? And what are the things that you say that make the light bulb go off in their head to go, I actually should be doing this. Why am I not already doing this?
Yeah, I think it's, the first reason, anyone invests in anything else than, mutual fund in the stock market is generally to beat the returns of the stock market. We explain we are targeting 20% annualized returns with our investments, and you receive a 50% tax write-off when you invest. They're like, oh, that's interesting. I don't get a 50% tax write-off when I buy a mutual fund. And, mutual funds can do 20% a year, and they can also go down 20% a year, right? So, but yeah, real estate tends to produce consistent cash flow and equity growth over time, especially if you do like value add like us. But, it's really all about trust. It's about building a relationship with someone, understanding their needs. It's not right for everyone. I mean, real estate is an illiquid asset, so it's about a 5-year investment period. So if you're 80 years old and, you need access to your capital on, a monthly basis or something, or you're not sure if you'll be around in 5 years, then it's probably not a great investment. But if you're in generally ages 40 to 65 or so, and you're kind of that period of your time where you have some capital to invest and it's time to accelerate your wealth and you really want to grow it as quickly as possible so you can get ready for retirement, that's a great client for us to work with, and someone that is a little tired of the volatility of the stock market and is maybe a self-directed IRA, because that can be great also for avoiding taxes or deferring taxes depending on the type of IRA. And so we tend to find people that are excited about alternatives. And what's interesting is I work with family offices as well, as you mentioned, and a lot of family offices, like 60, 70, 80% of their wealth is in alternative investments. A lot of it real estate, but also venture capital and other types of alternative investments outside of the stock market completely. And then a lot of people who I talk to that, are high net worth individuals, accredited investors, work very hard, maybe 50, 60 hours a week, and earn a decent income, but are kind of working to one day hopefully become perhaps a family office or somewhere on that level of wealth, are generally invested the opposite, like 80% in the stock market, maybe 100%, right? And the mindset is, I want to avoid risk. Therefore, I'm going to put all my eggs in one basket and invest all my money in the stock market. And, you can diversify in the stock market. A mutual fund, for example, can buy, all the companies in the S&P 500, so you can be diversified over many companies. However, or even many industries, right? However, at this end of the day, the stock market tends to kind of work in lock and step, so if it's going down, it's all going down. If it's going up, it's all going up, and now there's obviously options. There's specific equities you can buy. There's different, strategies within the stock market, but it's an interesting, and props to the financial advisors around the world who have, moved that message forward successfully to so many investors that, the safest thing to do is have 100% of your money in the stock market. I would say nay. I think from what I've seen, the groups that have $250 million net worth plus, they know something. And that's why a lot of their capital and wealth is in alternative investments. Tax benefits, the growth benefits, the potential to outperform the stock market significantly, the ability to be recession resilient. When stock market goes down, a non-liquid asset just kind of keeps chugging along, and eventually we'll sell in better times. So I take my investment lessons from people that have, that $250 million net worth, and I want to replicate what they're doing, not necessarily what someone who has $1 million net worth who's working to get to that level. And I think investors should take a page out of that book, focusing on alternatives.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think there's something to be said for diversification, but also, one thing that you mentioned in the beginning when you were talking about how you got started is you had an idea of what you wanted that end goal to be, and you reverse engineered it. Right. And now you're talking about, okay, I'm going to follow somebody that's got the net worth that I want. And what are they doing? Right. And following along those pathways. And I think that too, a lot of the traditional, you just go and invest in stock, like that was generations ago. And I think we have more options now. And so you should be curious if you're not already, and be looking at other things that you can, where you can put your money strategically while also harvesting tax strategies, things that you can use against actively generated income in your business is really smart to do. So I love that you're talking about this. And one thing just for our listeners, if you could just quickly, accredited investors, what exactly is that?
Sure. An accredited investor is someone that has a net worth of $1 million, not including their primary residence, or an income of $200,000 individually, or $300,000 including their spouse. So the SEC limits certain fundraisers. Essentially, we file a Reg D 506C that limits us to taking capital investments from accredited investors only. And the idea behind that is that accredited investors have a certain level of wealth and or income, and they are sophisticated enough to make a wise investment decision and understand the risks of that investment. Now, in reality, it's not really a perfect structure, because I've met people who are not accredited who are like super sharp in investments, and maybe they are almost accredited. They're working to get to that level. They're not quite there yet, but they're close. But they're like very sharp on real estate investments. They understand IRR and all the details of investing wisely, and the structure and leverage and so on. And then not to be harsh, but I've also met accredited investors that don't have very much investment experience at all. Someone in a completely different industry, and they might be an excellent doctor or a surgeon or an attorney, or a business owner, right, that owns a factory that makes widgets, and they've been extremely successful in what they do, and they're great at it. However, they don't have much investment experience or knowledge, and it's our job as operators and fundraisers to make our opportunities easy to understand, but also have that in-depth, detailed explanation there if they want to go digging further, or for the more savvy, sophisticated investors to review. So that's how it works, though. The idea is once you have that net worth or that income, you can then participate in more exclusive alternative investment options. And it kind of protects the general public from getting in on deals they're not qualified to understand. And it gives us guidance as operators and fundraisers on who we should be soliciting, who we should be talking to and sharing investment details with.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Thank you for going over that. And you explained it in a very plain terms, which is great. So everybody, regardless of, if they've heard that term before, if it's new to them, they, have that understanding. So our audience is business owners, right? So let's say we've got a business owner who has, an amount of money that they are looking to, put somewhere that's not going to be their typical returns in the market, that kind of thing, stock market. Where would you say is a good place for them to get started to, should they start reading books on their own? Should they reach out to a firm like yours? What's a good place that you would recommend based on your experience for that type of business owner to kind of start to understand the different options that are available to them?
Sure. Well, I think these days it depends how you learn. If you learn well reading a book, go with that. If you learn well listening to a podcast, there's hundreds, probably thousands of podcasts about just apartment building investing alone, I'd say, and there are you go on YouTube, these days there's so much content out there. You could just read blogs on websites. It depends how you learn best, and I'm very busy, I'm a father, I'm a business owner, I have a lot going on. So I tend to probably more realistically learn best on something, quite frankly, listen to a podcast, like driving in the car, because that's the one time a day I can kind of listen to something and I'm not doing 10 different things. The truth is I don't really have time to sit down and read a book about something. I will if it's something I have to do for business or something like that, or I just read a book on potty training, for my son. So and then completely then it just all went to hell. Whatever it ended up, and he just started going on the potty. So I was like, I read that whole book for nothing. But anyway, I did everything you're not supposed to do. I'm did that already, did that. So I was like, all right, great. Threw the book in the trash.
And they still figured it out. Isn't that amazing?
Figured it out. He's a genius. He's got to take over a real estate investment company one day. He's got to learn how to go on the potty. So there you go.
That's awesome.
But the truth is I maybe find 30 minutes a day to really read a book, and I'm half asleep by that point. So, how do you learn best? Right. And I have a podcast called the Passive Cash Flow Podcast. We do talk a lot about multifamily. There's many, many of them out there as well. You can check them all out. Spotify is kind of good with that. And I know Apple iTunes too, where you can kind of put in a topic and it'll really give you some very solid search results. And I just find, if you're a business owner, you're probably pretty busy just like me. I'm a business owner too. And you have that half-hour commute, to the office or whatnot a day. That's probably the chance you'll have to really put something on and listen to it and make sense of it. So, check out your podcast, right? Or whoever you're having on here. But that's a good way to go through it, and we have 190 plus episodes, and we're on Spotify and all the major platforms there too. So it's the Passive Cash Flow Podcast, but also YouTube. YouTube's phenomenal. If I want to learn something, I ride dirt bikes as well. And so if I'm trying to fix my dirt bike is something which I'm terrible at, I'm good at breaking them, not good at fixing them, then I will go on YouTube, right? That's pretty much my go-to for anything, and so that's a great way to kind of learn things quickly and cover topics quickly. And then, on there, you'll find additional podcasts, and we do webinars and so on. But there's a ton of YouTubers out there with far better content than me, and you can check them out too.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you for those recommendations. I'm always trying to find things that, as Tony Robbins says, the net time, no extra time. So am I doing dishes? I can put on a podcast. Am I driving, somewhere? I can listen to something like that. So it's not creating extra work, right? You're kind of filling in the spaces in between with those opportunities to learn something new. So that's great. So where would you recommend them starting? So should they go out and buy their own, duplex, triplex, or should they invest in a fund that somebody's doing it all for them and they can kind of observe and learn that way as their first kind of entryway into investing in real estate?
Are you scaling your business but feeling unsure if your financial systems can keep up? At the Cashflow CFO, my team and I created a simple tool to help you to find out if you're ready to scale. In less time than it takes to drink your morning coffee, my 10 minutes to 10 million financial health assessment will tell you exactly where you stand and where your biggest opportunities for profitable growth are hiding. Get your free assessment today at thecashflowcfo.com/assessment and take the first step towards true financial clarity and confident scaling.
Yeah, I'd say it depends. I obviously operate a real estate investment company for passive investors. So my answer to this question is going to be slightly biased, but I can say I've done it all. I've invested passively and I've invested actively. I've dealt with tenants, trash, and toilets, and it is terrible. It is not fun. It is a management intensive asset class. It is why most people don't like real estate, because they do buy a duplex, or they buy a 6-unit. The first 5-unit I bought, I leased 4 out of the 5 units to TRO tenants, temporary rental assistance. And so the deal with that is you get 6 months of rent from the government. After that 6 months, the tenants have to either have a job or be going to school to continue to get that rental assistance. I rented that building out in like a week. I was like, oh man, I'm the best leasing agent ever. 6 months later, 80% of those tenants were not paying rent because they didn't get a job or they didn't go to school. They didn't follow the rules of the TRO. And I realized I had screwed up. I misunderstood how it worked and the quality of tenant I was bringing to my building. It took me another 90 days plus to get those tenants out. The units were trashed. I essentially leased the units to homeless people that had like rental assistance for 6 months. And it ended up being a pretty rough scenario for me. I had to get the units renovated and so on. And then learned a lot from that situation. So, and I have many, stories like that. I mean, being a landlord is extremely frustrating and difficult. It's not the glorious end of real estate. Now it's an important end of it. The way you manage a building, you can buy a bad deal, but be a good manager and make it into a good deal. You can buy a good deal, but be a bad manager and it becomes a bad deal. So management is the most important thing. Now, you can hire a property management company. I did that. One was stealing money from us. The other one just overpromised and underdelivered. A third one just pretty much I don't know, just tried to avoid our calls. And we finally got a hold of them. They're like, well, we're trying our best, bro. Chill out, So, and then we developed our own management company, which was extremely difficult and is one of our biggest assets. So my experience with that is, it's a headache to own real estate. I mean, if you want to be a real estate investor and you want to start a real estate syndication company, and this is your dream, your passion, then yeah, you should probably start buying real estate and dealing with tenants, trash, and toilets. Get ready to get your hands dirty and get frustrated and have trouble falling asleep at night. If you are good at what you do and you make money doing it and you've been able to put some money away and you have the degree, you've worked towards this position in your career, stay on that path. It is not more glorious doing what I do. It is not more fun. The grass is always green on the other side. Invest with a good operator who knows what they're doing. You can get in on a big guys that have multi-billion-dollar funds. You can get on small guys that are just getting started and get a bigger piece of the pie. You can get on medium-sized guys like us. They're going to offer you kind of local market expertise, vertical integration, passive investment experience of monthly updates, quarterly financials, quarterly distributions right to your account. You know exactly what's going on with your investment and you don't have to do a thing. Now, you're going to learn. You're going to learn from our updates. You're going to learn from, hey, the contractor didn't show up. Here's how we solve that problem. Hey, a pipe burst and caused $20,000 in damage. Here's how we solve that problem. So you're going to learn from us. You're going to see it all happening, but you're not going to be responsible for it. And you're probably going to make a better return on investment. Because let me tell you, that learning curve costs money. I didn't make very good returns on my first investments. I learned, I fired 3 management companies to create our own. I think I made 8% return on my first deal, annualized, between the purchase, the cash flow and the sale, and just squeezed out a profit. So, but I probably learned $200,000 worth of education, right? So
a lot of sweat equity in that one.
yeah, exactly. So, and then you learn from the operator, learn from the guy who's been doing it for years, who has the systems in place. And then, do that for a couple of years, make a return on your investment. And if you want to go out and start swinging hammers and signing mortgage documents, more power to you. You might say, I'm good. I'm going to keep making my 2x returns here, investing with this guy and that guy. You could pick a few operators, and spread the wealth. That's a good way to go.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think, the grass is always greener on the other side until you get there and you're like, oh, wow, I didn't know what I signed myself up for. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I love that. I think, for the professionals or the business owners that are listening, right? Stay in your lane, generate revenue where you know how to do it best. And then, partner up with somebody that can handle all the other stuff on the investment side. Because I think that is super wise. You don't know what you don't know, and that learning curve is expensive. So So depending on what you want to do, if this is your hobby, right? I knew a couple that they said, oh, this is my retirement. They bought like a 12 unit and they were out there doing the yard work, the maintenance, the this, the that, the other, and they were like, no, this is, this is what we do. They enjoyed it and it was great. But not everybody is like that. And most of our listeners are not like that, right? They're looking for, where do I park some money that I'm going to get better than, the best returns possible for what I have. So
yeah, exactly. And I also found like I loved to ski. So I started buying ski houses and we would rent them on Airbnb, and it was cool because I could go up there and ski whenever they weren't rented, and then I'd be like up there and I'd be working on them. And then I'd be up there and I would like not ski at all. And then I'd have to go up there like just to fix them and deal with issues. And it got to a point I was like, I hate this. I'm literally skiing less than I did when I just rented an apartment, or a house on the mountain. And I literally sold all my ski houses and was like, forget this. I'm just going to whatever, next time I go skiing, I'll just rent a hotel. I'll just get a hotel room. Like, this is for the birds, this whole like managing and maintaining a bunch of properties 3 states away.
It takes the fun out of it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All of a sudden, like I didn't like going up to Vermont. I was like, I was a pain in the neck. Maybe I get like a half a day of skiing in. And, now it's like, if I want to go skiing, I'll just rent a hotel room and enjoy a real ski vacation. That's the life,
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's, we always think we're going to, make it better by doing, things like that. And then we learn the hard way, but that's most of us as entrepreneurs, we have to learn the hard way at some point for some things. So that makes sense. One of the other things that you said you did with your business that I really liked and would love to talk a little bit more about is the vertical integration. So you tried bringing in management companies, you realized that didn't work. And so you said, you know what, I can do it better and probably cheaper and all of those things. What are some of the other integrations that you over the years have added to your company?
Sure. Yeah. So property management, we realized, was one of the most important things when you're working with other people's money and repositioning a vintage apartment building. We've considered starting a construction company, but we chose not to move forward with that. It's talk about management intensive. I mean, managing, day laborers and so on and we work with good contractors that essentially don't need to market for any other business. We keep them so busy. They are independent contractors, but they almost act in a way almost like an employee. We don't obviously have the payroll tax and the costs of having, the insurance costs of having guys on our payroll like that, but which kind of saves us money in the end. And sure, they make their little profit override. That's fine. But they're also managing these crews, so we have about 4 different contractors. They're essentially kind of like general contractors that have generally 2 to 4 crews under them. So we'll have anywhere between like 8 to 16 crews going in at any time. And, if we had to have all these guys on payroll, it would be a huge cost, right? And also like you don't always have that. Maybe at some point you need 16 crews going. Maybe another week you need 8 crews going, right? Because you have slower turnover, right? So and then what are you going to do to those other, 8 crews, keep them on payroll, whatever, fire them and hire them a week later? Like, nah. So we have all independent contractors on that front. We also, on the marketing side, we really try to work with third-party marketing companies, or virtual assistants. I have about 4 virtual assistants myself. We also, our property management company has a number of virtual assistants. So it costs about twice as much money to have someone come into the office here and sit down. I mean, we live in northern New Jersey. There's a very high cost of living here. So, people expect to make a certain wage. And then also you're asking them to come into the office, which is an added task. So if we can hire someone for, an equally good service as a virtual assistant, and again, you're not tasked with then, what about a slow time? Do we have enough for them? And so on. They're independent contractors, so that's really what we try to. We keep a lean and mean company here. We actually try to avoid any integrations we don't need to do, like, construction and so on, right? We are okay with hiring good third-party companies and then making their profit. And they're, I've tried to create YouTube ClickFunnels page. It didn't come out that well. I've tried to create like Facebook ads, that they didn't really get the results you're going to get from like a really good, Facebook marketing company who like knows is like the back of their hand. They got these like expert people. I've tried to make promo videos of my cell phone. It comes out looking like a promo video on a cell phone. Like hire the right people for the job. Obviously, shop around, get a good price, but at the end of the day, you get better results when you hire professionals rather than trying to create every company yourself that you need to, hire.
Yeah. And there's also something to be said when you talk about strategy and growth through acquisitions or doing bolt-on, services, that taking a cost center and turning it into a profit, a revenue stream. But you also there's other considerations, right? So if you were to say start a construction, you now are in a restricted industry. So financing is different, insurance is different, right? So there's a lot of other things to consider, as you're looking at doing that vertical integration. But yeah, no, I think it's always, when you find really good people that are good at what they do, you don't always have to bring them, in under your umbrella. You can still, work with them. And like you said, you keep them busy enough that you don't have to worry about, them going out and having to look for other work. So they're very, probably loyal and best workers for your company due to those circumstances. So that's really cool.
They're experts in the space. They've been doing something longer than we've been doing. We recognize how hard it is to learn a new industry, so we call those distractions, right? And we try to avoid distractions as best we can. We don't sell education. We don't do the boot camps, and maybe, listen, that's not a bad business model. I know a lot of companies that do, and they charge $20,000 for a, package of books and CDs and, a monthly coaching call. Like, it's not a bad gig. They're probably making some good money, but that's not what we do. We sell quality investment opportunities to qualified investors. And that's it. You got to sell one thing too. Like, if you're selling everything and it kind of gets out of control, and some of those, guru coaches kind of rub me the wrong way as well, so it's kind of repackaging last year's product, for a new price. But so yeah, I think that you got to know what you sell, you got to know what your service is, and just do it really darn well. Be the best person in that industry at it.
100%. I agree with that. Awesome. Well, this has been such a great conversation. Thank you for sharing all of your hard-earned wisdom with us today. And if somebody would like to learn more about your investments and work with you, how can they get a hold of you?
Sure. So our website is peoplescapitalgroup.com. That's peoplescapitalgroup.com, peoples with an S. And we also have the podcast, the Passive Cash Flow Podcast. So we're on all the major platforms, Spotify, Apple, iTunes, and so on. And we put out a lot of content on YouTube. So you can just put People's Capital Group into YouTube. You'll see us pop up there. I do monthly masterclasses on investments around real estate there. One popular one was your guide to New Jersey real estate investing. We've completed about 300 transactions here in New Jersey. So we're very active in this market. We know North Jersey very well. We source great deals, and that's our specialty. So I'd say, right now it's that's why people like investing with us. So, again, we don't sell the education, but we have a lot of it. We have ebooks and information on our website there. And we're actually buying a property right now in Hackensack, New Jersey. So it's filling up. We have a number of investors interested. And, if you're an accredited investor, you can also email us at info@peoplescapitalgroup.com. We'll get right back to you. And you can reach me at Aaron, Aaron, at peoplescapitalgroup.com as well. So, but it all starts at our website. Enjoy the content there and get in touch with our team. That's peoplescapitalgroup.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and I learned something new today. So I'm sure all of our listeners did as well. So thank you for sharing with us today. And go check out Aaron and his company if you guys are interested in learning more about how to have some real estate investments that you don't have to. What did you say, Aaron? Toilets, trash, and there was a third one.
Toilets, trash, and tenants. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Take the easy button and just invest in a fund.
There you go. Just
all right.
click invest here. Yeah, just sit back and count your money. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Aaron. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Andrea. You too.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and review, and we'll catch you on the next episode. If you're looking for more content or resources in the meantime, check out our website for information, blogs, and our I've Got a Spreadsheet for That series. That's thecashflowcfo.com. Again, thecashflowcfo.com. We can't wait to hear from you.